the cursed isle. You could feel it long before you set foot on its black sands. The moment we lowered the longboats and began our approach, the air grew heavier, the sea unnaturally calm. It was as if the island was holding its breath, watching us. Every man aboard the Sea Pearl wore the same expression, fear tempered by greed. As we drew closer, the shoreline came into focus. Jagged rocks jutted out like the teeth of some ancient beast. The sand wasn't golden or white, but black as midnight, glinting faintly in the dim light. Beyond the beach, the dense jungle loomed, the trees twisted and gnarled like they'd been shaped by centuries of torment. When we landed, I stepped onto the shore first, as any good captain would. The ground beneath my boots felt wrong. It was solid, sure, but there was an unease to it, like walking on the chest of a sleeping giant. "Stay close," I told the crew, turning to see their pale faces. "The gods don't take kindly to thieves, and this island isn't likely to make things easy for us." We pressed forward, leaving the boats behind. The jungle swallowed us almost immediately, the thick canopy blocking out what little sunlight there was. The air was stifling, heavy with the scent of rot and salt. And then the noises started. At first, it was just the rustle of leaves, the creak of branches. But soon we began hearing whispers, faint and distant. They sounded like voices, but no language I'd ever heard. Some of the men began to falter, clutching their weapons tightly. "Captain," Briggs, my first mate, muttered, "this place isn't natural. We shouldn't be here." I glanced at him, then at the rest of the crew. "You think the greatest treasures of the sea are guarded by nothing but rumors? Stay sharp. This island means to scare us off, but it's just tricks, nothing more." I wasn't entirely sure I believed my own words. We pushed deeper into the jungle, following a path marked on the ancient map I'd secured in Kingshaven. The trail was treacherous, the ground uneven and littered with strange, jagged stones that seemed almost too sharp to be natural. It was Briggs who noticed the first sign of trouble. "Captain," he said, pointing to a nearby tree. "Look." Carved into the bark was a symbol, a spiral surrounded by jagged lines. It looked old, ancient even, and it pulsed faintly, as though alive. The whispers grew louder as we stood near it, a low, eerie chant that seemed to come from all around us. One of the younger crewmen, a lad named Fergus, reached out to touch it, and I barked. "Don't!" He froze, wide-eyed. "What is it, Captain?" "Trouble," I said simply. "Keep moving." We continued on, but the jungle grew darker, the path harder to follow. The map was our only guide, but even it seemed wrong somehow, the markings shifting when we weren't looking. And then we found it, the clearing. In the center of the jungle was a stone altar, weathered and cracked, covered in moss and barnacles. Around it were several skeletal remains, still clutching rusted swords and broken tools. These were the last fools who dared seek the treasure, and they hadn't fared well. The altar itself was inscribed with more of those strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. At its base was a chest, ornate, ancient, and covered in barnacles, as though it had been dragged from the bottom of the sea. The crew hesitated, their eyes darting between me and the treasure. I could see it in their faces, the pull of greed, the fear of the curse. "This is it," I said, stepping forward. "The prize we came for. But mark my words, lads, this isn't just gold and jewels. This treasure is cursed and the gods will demand their price." Briggs frowned. So what do we do, Captain? Take it and risk the curse? Leave it and go back empty-handed? I knelt beside the chest, running my hook along its edge. It was cold to the touch, unnaturally so. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Not yet, I said. We'll camp here for the night. The sea has its tricks, and so does this island. I won't risk the crew's lives without knowing exactly what we're dealing with. That night, the island revealed its true nature. The crew set up camp near the altar, their nerves frayed, but their greed still outweighing their fear. But as the sun set and darkness fell, the whispers turned to screams. Men woke in the middle of the night, clutching their heads and shouting about visions, ghostly figures, drowned sailors, and shadows that moved on their own. The jungle seemed alive, the trees shifting and groaning as though they were watching us. Fergus vanished sometime after midnight. One moment he was sitting by the fire, and the next he was gone. We searched for him, calling his name, but there was no trace of him, only his hat lying near the altar. The men were on edge, muttering about leaving the treasure and the island behind. But I knew better. You don't come this far to turn back. Listen to me, I roared, silencing their chatter. This island is testing us. It wants to see if we're worthy of its secrets. Stand firm and we'll claim the prize. Falter and we'll join the bones on that altar. Now, get some rest. Tomorrow, we finish this. By dawn, the jungle was deathly quiet. The whispers had stopped, replaced by an eerie stillness. The chest sat where it had been, untouched and waiting. I stood before it. My crew gathered behind me. This is it, I said. The moment we prove ourselves, whatever lies within this chest is ours by right. But remember, the gods don't part with their treasures lightly. I placed my hook on the lid, ready to open it. But the story doesn't end here, does it? You'll have to wait to see what lies within and what price we paid for it. Until next time, sailor, keep your courage sharp and your wits sharper. The sea isn't done with us yet.